guest.
You're
So
not the
I'm
guest.
not coming prepared. What? We don't co-host.
You're for dang straight we don't co-host.
I'm a guest.
Oh, hi, everybody. What's going on? This is Streetwise, Home Edition. I'm the host, Matthew McReynolds.
I'm the guest of honor.
The beautiful, luxurious, bougie Azale, guest of honor. Anywho, what are we talking about today? We just hop on here for no reason?
No, I wanted to talk about somebody's daughter. I wanted to talk about our dynamic, dreams, shattered dreams, you know.
Dreams.
Dreams.
We got a lot of those, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So usually
deferred dreams, I guess.
Deferred dreams. I guess we should have probably had an agenda before we came on here for our first Home Edition episode.
Technically second.
Second? Have we had a Home Edition episode
We
before?
haven't, but you just did.
Well, it's our first Home
yes,
Edition episode. There's really nothing in here.
Yeah.
Hakeem was like, what do you got in there? Like, oh, well.
One day's worth of
No, I wrote
notes.
some notes. I usually rip stuff out. All right, hit us with this. What is Someday Daughter?
Well, why? That seems so... Should have been expecting a question. Someday Daughter is a motherhood community. I guess
you gotta project.
It's a modern day village for women to come to for resources and community. As a mother who was struggling in motherhood, in just feeling kind of alone and feeling lost and overwhelmed and exhausted, and realizing, like, what does it takes a village mean if I don't have a village? Even though I have people in my life, it doesn't feel intentionally like people are pouring into me in terms of motherhood. So Someday Daughter was born, the idea, the concept, starting with a blog and developing into many more things in the future, Lord's will. Is that a good answer?
No, that's a good answer. I think people are going to want to know, why does it need to exist for women? I mean, what is it about being a stay-at-home mom, a working mom, a woman in today's society? Why is there such a need for a deeper community?
I think, okay, so I guess I can go into the how, or the why, I should say. Back in 2019, our first daughter, Eden, was a stillbirth, and it really caught us off guard. And in that grieving process, it was sort of realizing, I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, you'll know if I'm going to say something.
Realizing this, I guess, how significant of a role and what it means to be a mother, how much I could feel for a child that I hadn't had. And you sort of romanticize yourself. It's like all that I would have done for her and all that I would have done with her. And I sort of had this realization, like, I'm not who I want to be. I'm not as, like, wonderful as I am in my, my imaginary self, where I'm, like, doing all these magnificent things with my children. We already had a child that I wasn't, impressing myself with raising him, to be honest. And I sort of, I had that concept, like, who am I as a mother? And what does that even mean? And I think it really hit me the day where, our child after that, Judah, I like frantically was on the phone with my mom and I was trying to get this giant blowout stain out of our comforter. And I was like, oh my God, Mom, what should I do? How do I treat the stain? Do I going to have to throw this away? Like, this is not in the budget. And she just is calmly walking me through the process of soaking and, taking out the stain. And it worked, of course, because she's wonderful. And I realized, are my children going to call her? Are they just going to go past me and call her? And, like, no, I want to be the person that they're calling. And, back in the day, it was before women were always working. It was more common to have a stay-at-home mom and a working dad, and you learned how to manage a household like the job that it absolutely is. And I feel like this generation just kind of skipped over that, and we didn't get those classes and the home economics and all that stuff, which it's beautiful for women to be able to be a part of the workforce, but you kind of, the stay at home moms or the moms in general, that part of it I feel is a little bit neglected in terms of resources. You know, looking at my husband who's an entrepreneur, and the resources are literally endless. I mean, stacks and stacks of books, podcasts, all of these resources, groups and masterminds and everything. And he just is like, how do I even narrow down my options? Like, the most important job in the world, without a doubt, is raising children, and the resources are like slim, you know? So I wanted to start a place where we can have some resources and have some support and pour into each other, and starting with information and growing to wherever the Lord will allow it to go. So yeah, I guess that's the why. Not a short answer,
They're
but
not answers aren't always supposed to be short. That was good. I appreciate
yeah.
the depth, and I think when you explain it like that, you explain your heart and your. I mean, that's literally it. You explain your why and why you want to build out this community. It comes from a place of deep pain and deep hurt, and but also just the average everyday struggles. So, leading me to my next question, why is it so hard to do the work? I'm using air
Hmm.
quotes. Why is it so hard to do the work of motherhood? What is so draining about it? What is so difficult? I mean, everybody's got jobs. Everybody's got to do stuff
Hmm.
to, hold it down. What is it about motherhood that kind of takes it to another level?
I think it comes down to the fact that your day is just not your own. Everything is kind of up in the air. Whereas adults, we are emotionally stable for the most part, and our schedules can be predictable, and we know what to do. We know how to blow our own nose, all of that. We're fine, but then when you throw a child and then children into the mix, it's you wake up and they didn't have enough sleep and they are an absolute disaster. And so anything you're trying to do, anything you thought was going to happen in this day is absolutely not going to happen anymore. And you can't even think without the baby screaming and the toddler shouting and throwing fits after fits after fits. And we have a very talkative 5-year-old who wants his thoughts to be
That boy
known.
can go. Where did he
every
get that from?
every right. The one with the podcast, probably. The like he wants all his thoughts to be known, and I want to listen to all of his thoughts, but I can't even listen to all of my thoughts. So like I'm trying to be everything all day long, and listening to them period is a full-time job, and then throw on trying to keep a house clean. We live with my in-laws, and you have the pressure of what are they going to think if I literally have to go upstairs. I have to leave this mess in the kitchen, and I don't want to be represented that way, and all of that stuff. It's just constant thoughts, constant, responsibility, the weight of the responsibility. It's just so high stakes. It just feels like if I'm not doing this, and this, then what will happen in the future? And it's all unknown. And there's nobody looking over your shoulder and keeping track and evaluating you and telling you, well, we're slacking in this area. How do we get better? It's you. It's you. You're this solopreneur. Obviously, I have a husband, but like he runs a business.
I
This.
remember I remember when we with Roman when we were at the birthing center and you had just pushed him out after 26 hours of labor and the all natural and birth process, which was absolutely insane, but you did it. And here we are with our first child sitting in the bed thinking like, all right, what comes next? And the midwife literally walks in and says, okay, whenever you guys are ready to go, just let us know. We'll get them all wrapped up for
It's
you.
like,
I didn't even have the car seat
yeah.
buckled in yet. I
Like,
was like,
well, we
wait,
have just at
aren't one of
least
y'all going to
30
show me how to do it? It was
questions.
raining outside.
Right? Like, I don't know what to do. And I don't know. And I think I want to know. I want to know how to do everything. I thought I was going to be so good. I thought I would have endless energy, endless creativity. I thought I would be doing the craft tables and the sensory bins, and I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, hey mommy, can you play? No, I don't want to play. I don't want to do that. That is, my heart is not overflowing with the desires that I thought as a mother we're just gonna come in there. It just it wasn't happening. And so it's just that you feel the disappointment, you feel just, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? I don't want them to not be independent, but I also don't want them to not feel like they need me, and I want to be approachable, but I don't want to be too much of their friend because I want to discipline. And it's just that there's so much, and at the end of the day you're literally not just caring for, not just responsible for, like, the literal livelihood of them, but also the shaping and molding them into a person. I'm not their babysitter. I'm not just like clocking out and, okay, well, I was here for 4 hours, collect my paycheck. It's like, no, it doesn't end. And everything, I am expecting to see the fruit of my work, and I want to pour into them because I want them to blossom into everything that they could possibly be. And to think that me not doing my job could be a detriment to them in the future is just, it's overwhelming to just wake up every day knowing like your off day could really cost you something,
Hmm.
and that's, the burden is just so strong.
No, that's big. That's really big because it's such a delayed gratification aspect that we're just not, as humans, we're not built for the delayed gratification naturally. Now, the most successful people in the world have been able to curate a sense of delayed gratification. But when you're talking about being a mom or just a stay-at-home parent in general, I mean, you are literally playing for the long game. Our role as parents is to equip and build these kids up to their future selves, and there's a lot of ups and downs on that journey, and you might be pouring into somebody, you might be pouring into one of the kids, and they might have a great day, but then you've been pouring in more to the other one and
Right.
they're having an off time, and
Right.
you have to be able to facilitate that and keep it going and hold it down, especially because you're here literally all day
Literally all
every day. So where can you find the balance when you're talking about, I don't want to do the sensory board right now, I just gave you lunch, we just colored, I just did all this, I can't, I need
right.
time for myself. How do you figure that out during the day? And so I know that it's not always perfect, but how would you encourage somebody to find balance during the day, knowing that you're playing the long game,
Right.
knowing that you have to give yourself grace? How do you facilitate quality time, but also creating time for yourself?
There's the balance, you're right, of the long game and the day to day, where I am aware of how exhausting it is. And so, yes, every day I'm waking up, I don't get them. I make sure I get my time in the morning and they are independently playing. And I really pour into them in that. Like, I want to encourage them to be together, use their imagination. Even the baby, like, she's in there, she's talking to herself. And I am cool with that because I need my time. And that's something I remember when Roman, our oldest, was a baby, I would, he would be my alarm clock. And you wake up and I felt so behind. I'm like, can I brush my teeth? Like, can I just squeeze in brushing my teeth? I'm rushing through my morning routine, which is, extremely the abridged version of my morning routine. I'm like, brush teeth, go to the bathroom, put in my contacts, and like sprint to the baby's room. And then my morning, I feel behind. I feel like they're absolutely not doing the laundry, but then during nap time I'm exhausted. And so I really took the time in the morning to have my time, and then I really prioritize nap time, and then I make sure that I'm intentional with them for at least a portion of the day. I am not, I do wish I was more like creative, probably. That's an area that I can get better, but I try to give them a part of my day that is like deliberately them focused, that probably I'm not going to want to do it, but I'm going to because that is part of this work. There is definitely a balance in this age where we're very forgiving. Like social media, you see all the videos of like, oh, I'm just everything is like, it's hard. Lean into that. Give yourself grace, which is great. Please do give yourself grace, but also acknowledge that this is a job and it is a real one and it's significant. And we do need to roll up our sleeves and put in the work because it is the most important work you will ever do.
Speaking of,
Hey, get back to bed. You're going potty. Okay, baby. Understanding that and knowing it's the real deal, and we do show up headache, stomach ache, cold, flu, all of that. You don't just tap out. And we do need to give ourselves grace for that because it's not perfect conditions, but we do also need to acknowledge like we did sign up for this and this is a very, very great responsibility.
we did the
And we
thing.
have to own it. We did the thing.
We
Got
did
it.
it a lot of
Like,
times.
yeah.
Like we did it. It was on purpose.
It was on purpose.
It was fun too.
And and like they are our responsibility and that matters. Like we have to acknowledge that. You're done? Okay. Do you need help?
You helping him, pal? Are you helping him?
Okay. Judy, wash your hands. Okay. I'm too long-winded. Ask me a short question.
Well, finish your answer. Do you remember?
No, I was just saying, like, just acknowledge.
You talked about give yourself grace, but also acknowledge that
Yeah.
it is
It's a
job
great responsibility. It
and a
is a
great
job, and we
responsibility.
do need to show up for it. And there are going to be things that we don't want to do. Most things we don't want to do. And for me, for a long time,
Let me get that. Boys, lay down. Quiet, please.
for me, for a long time, that was the homemaking, and it is still the actual home keeping part of things was really, really, and I'm telling you as if you don't know, that part was the part that I thought I would be so naturally good at. And I just envisioned this beautiful home, and I think I allowed myself because the home wasn't inspiring. This isn't what I dreamed. I thought we would have our own place and this beautiful backyard and this, we would have this beautiful primary bedroom and the kids were all of that is in my dreams. And here I'm like, I'm not inspired. I don't feel like it. This carpet is dirty. What's the point of vacuuming? That's how you feel like, and that's how I operate. And it can be it is a terrible mindset. But the homekeeping is the part that I'm like, you know what? The kids are alive. So I did my job and I'm really tired. So, like, sorry, it's dirty, but I did a job today. And that's the part that I started having to adjust my days where the baby's not so baby anymore, where I'm not waking up in the middle of the night and I could probably get up early and fold the laundry and be more proactive in that and treat that like my job because it is my job. And if my husband has to get up and no matter what the weather or whatever, he's going to work and he's doing his job, I can do the uncomfortable things as well and adjust my schedule a little bit and get done the things that aren't necessarily natural or desirable for me, but they do make us feel more at home and more at peace in our space.
No, that's good. I think so. You talked about making sure that you set aside time for yourself when you can, but also acknowledging those difficult things, the things that suck, the things that are not fun, but the things that need to get done, doing those early. The whole concept, eat the frog, eat the frog first. When's the best time of day to eat the frog? As early as possible, because that way you're not sitting there dreading it the entire day, right? If you can get it done early.
Never heard that, by the way.
You never heard that?
I really was lost when it's like
it's a thing.
Is there ever a time to eat the frog? I don't know, but that makes sense. Yeah, like eat get it done.
First.
Yeah, no, bite the bullet. Like, yeah, get it out of the way because yeah, there is no point in the day where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to scratch the itch and fold that laundry. Like there's never, I'm not craving that throughout my day. But getting it done sets me off on the right foot. And I have to be okay with like taking that step. At least I did the laundry. I did some dusting this morning and I feel productive. I feel like Martha Stewart by that point in the day
Looks great
already.
in here, by the
It's
way.
8 a.m. Yeah, like that. And it makes you feel good. And I feel like when he comes home, he's going to be proud and I can be proud. Not that I'm like, are you happy with what I did? But I kind of am, let's be real. I do like when it looks good in here, I feel good. And I want him to feel good in this space because we both live here, right? Like that is my responsibility. Like he comes in, if we didn't get that paycheck, I'd be like, what's going on? Like, but I may not bring the paycheck, but I should be bringing the peace. I should be making the space that he's coming home to be beautiful and inspiring, and like that's my part. That's what I bring to the table and he brings the table.
And I think it really just comes down to owning the role that you have, and the role is equally important. It's just different. And again, in the business ownership context, there's only so much that I personally can do. I have to build out my team. I have to find things that are maybe my blind spots or they're my weaknesses, and I have to facilitate it with people that can do those things better than me, so I can
Yeah.
focus on the things that I'm actually good at. And so, in the same way, I think it's easy for a person staying at home to feel less valuable. And I think that's where a lot of the hardship comes in and the lack of fulfillment. And it's just figuring out how can you as an individual feel fulfilled with your role. And it's been really encouraging to see kind of you struggle through that and grow through that and find your space, because I remember when we were dating and what you envisioned being a wife at the house and then a mom at the house, what that would look like, and then what it actually was
Right.
is
Like I painted that
different.
picture.
Oh
Right.
yes,
I
yes.
mean, I was like,
And a lot of our early
and the
fights
babies in the
was
homeschool and whatever. And I'm like, look, I'm struggling. I'm drowning. Okay. So I don't know. That vision is not a reality. So I'm sorry, but like, I can't do this. And yeah, that is. And I think should we dive into the balance of, because I think there is a tendency with mothers and women in general, when you are managing the household, to feel like I'm carrying this thing and it's mine and you don't get it, and like you want the help but you also don't, you feel like you do it the best way, and he doesn't know how to change a diaper. Who cares? Like if the man is
I
willing to
know how to
help,
change a
let
diaper.
him help. You do. Yes, he's a very capable man, but I mean, you have this tendency to feel like I got it. Like, you don't know. Or we're not communicating that we do need help. And if I'm saying I need help, he's like, oh, okay, put me in, coach. Like, what do you need? Do you need me to make dinner when I come home? Do you need me, like, I can help you clean? What do you need? But if I'm just sitting here silently struggling and getting salty over time and like blowing up and getting an attitude that he's not pulling his weight around the house, and he's like, okay, I'm sorry. I thought, I just didn't know. And so I think that is something too. It's like, be willing to lean on your partner because we are partners. And I remember talking to my sister before and I was having a hard time. Like I feel like I'm drowning. And she was telling me like, make sure you tell that to Matthew, because if you guys, it's like, can you imagine your job can't be 24/7. Like I don't clock out. Like he comes home from work and he's done with work, and then it's like, oh good, but I'm still on the clock through the night and I'm waking up, and if they're sick, and like that's not fair, and he doesn't think that's fair either. But like communicating, yeah, I'm exhausted and could you understand, like the kids have been sick and I've been waking up in the middle of the night because yeah, you go to work in the morning but I also don't get a break during the day, and so can you help me? And they love you and they're gonna be willing to help, and if they're not, like don't give up on your relationship, but that's the standard that like we're gonna have to raise the bar a little bit. And like if it's not something that they're naturally jumping at the thought of, let's just work towards taking steps in that direction to be a team and support each other. Because if you're a man and you're listening, it's a hard job. So even if it doesn't look hard, that means she's doing a great job
She holding
because
it down. Yeah.
it's hard.
She
And if she
lying
doesn't
too.
look like she's crumbling, you've married an angel, but she's probably crumbling on the inside. So
Yeah, there's
just be
probably a time
there
bomb there.
and yeah, like just be there to like, hold her at the seams, cuz I feel like I'm on the verge most days.
Yeah, we just had Akeem Adeniji on, and we were talking about marriage and advice that he received.
Mhm.
And one of the gems that he dropped was the communication piece. And I think something that we've constantly struggled with and we're working on and trying to get better at is whenever one of us is having a hard time, it's important to not feel isolated or not to self isolate and pull back and withdraw from the other person, because the other person needs to be able to share in the pain, share in the struggle, not be excluded from the struggle and then resented because of all the weight that I've been carrying by myself. I need you to know what I'm going through, or at least be able to empathize with me on my side, because
Right.
our roles are split, but we share in this overall version. We share on the journey together. Like everything we go through, we're going through at the same time collectively. So if you're having a hard time, that's where I need to be able to come in and allow you to lean on me and come in and support you while
Yeah.
also listening to you. But I have to understand where you're coming from. And if I don't know that, I can't I can't support. And a lot of times when that's not done the right way, one person will come and lash out. The other person, if they're not in a healthy space, they're stressed out because of what they got going on. They will receive that lashing out, and then they respond so negatively because they're just not ready for it. They weren't expecting it. When
Mhm.
a lot of times the best thing to do in a perfect world is to acknowledge your pain and then meet you there. But if you're lashing out at me, even though I know it's not really about me, it feels like it. And then I push it right back at you. And now we're just in this cycle where if one of
Right.
us doesn't take a step back and say, all right, let's pause, let's slow this thing down, what's
Mhm.
happening right now? And we've literally had to do that before
Yeah.
sometimes. Like, all right, stop,
Yeah.
pause. And that was a tool that we got from our marriage counselors, Kimball and Elizabeth. So how is that? Well, let me take it back, because my actual question that I wrote down was, and we could talk about marriage
Mhm.
counseling, and we can kind of take this however, but when specifically because you're being intentional about building out this community, we're being very vulnerable right now in talking about things that we struggle with, things that make this life hard in the context of being a mom, being a stay-at-home mom, but also trying to build out work. Like you're not just at the house, like you're hustling too, and you've been doing this in different capacities for years, really this
Yeah.
whole time. So what resources have you utilized? What mentors, what tools, what influencers, and not just from a social media influencers, but what people do you look up to?
Mhm.
And maybe they've been personal people that have fed into you. Maybe they're podcasts. What resources have you been able to pull from to seek mentorship or to seek guidance as you really suffer through this? I mean, this is a cross that you carry, as we all have our own.
Oh, well, you, I would say, like that's probably my you'd probably be my biggest because you are my teammate and it is so helpful to have an entrepreneur because and the type of entrepreneur that you are always studying and reading and you have so much information to regurgitate to me that I can like I can learn from and grow from just by osmosis, just being by you. So that's amazing and that's a blessing. And you're rooting for me and you believe in my dreams. and you can support my dreams. And so that, but I also have all of my sisters. I have 4 sisters, and they are all individually
I thought you had
extremely,
6.
extremely impactful and inspiring to me in their own ways. And then my mom is literally, like, literally super mom. Like, she's incredible. Obviously, you know this. Anyone who knows her is like, how does she do it? And the answer is, I don't know. And the grace of God, equally. Um, and so that, but then also the 1,000 podcast episodes you share and the books that I listen to on our collective Audible. That's really just the books that he gets, and I can choose which ones I listen to. I cannot. I do not use the credits.
You
I
do,
did
and you
once.
can. You will
I
get
did
a.
once, and boy, was that a mistake. So the Audible that I have the luxury of using the app that he controls. So I do have my pick of 1 million
There's a lot there.
entrepreneurial
There's a
books.
lot of
So
value there.
I'm not left wanting in that category. So lots of those resources, and lots of prayer, and yeah, that would probably
Do you
be
think you're lacking
my
in that area at all? Do you think
prayer.
that's a no,
Oh,
not prayer, but
yes,
from a mentorship perspective, do you think you
absolutely.
just listed out a
Yeah.
whole bunch, but do you think that's enough? Do you think that having somebody that intentionally would feed into you, that I mean your sisters are, some of them are ahead of you, but you're ahead of some of them, and it's
Hmm.
all kind of cyclical. You guys are essentially peers. You and I are teammates, and I get to come from a different perspective, but I'm also not in your shoes, nor have I. I'm not in there, nor ever will be, and so I can't be ahead of you to turn
Right.
around and feed back into you. Your mom is a great resource. She is great. Um,
My dad too. I forgot to say him. Shout out. He's great.
Shout
Also,
out.
but yes, that extremely lacking in that area. I obviously, with you going to networking groups every week and being around, people who are just going after the same thing, that is something that I have never had. There's always um, been that lack, and one of my strengths slash weaknesses is, I don't know which one it is. Is it relator or something where it's like I just have the capacity for a small group of people. Like, the people that I surround myself with, I like depth. I don't have the capacity for like shallow surface level anything. And so it's really hard for me to desire to expand that circle because I'm like, you know what, I'm good and I can read. But I've seen the difference in you, Matthew, how people pouring into you, like, it matters. It just does. I was listening to Alex Ramosi today talking about the unknown.
Shout out. Let's go. You just did that. That's a
The
win.
unknown unknowns, which you've talked about many times, but just, it's like we shouldn't just be in our own mind. And like, there's a part of that where I'm, yeah, seeking, I pray about those things, but I also know that there's so much in other people that my brain cannot think of anything, although I do love to try and pretend like I know it all. I know deep down that I don't, and there's so much for me to learn, and there's so many people out there that I can draw from, so many incredible women that I know could make a huge impact in my life, and I just don't have that. And that's something that, as we get more childcare and as like finances and schedules and things shift, that is a goal of mine to pursue.
Have you been there this whole time?
Am I like talking too much? Yes.
Nah.
Yes, I am. That was a pause. That's
It was
yes.
a
I'll
pause.
stop.
You don't just stop. You close well. You don't just stop, people. If you don't stop, you got to close well. You got to round it out and bring it back home. It's an
Didn't
art.
I?
But
I
we
did.
got
I said that's something I'm absolutely praying for, and in this next season of life, that's something I'm actively pursuing is mentorship.
You didn't make an excuse though. You like talked about like the difficulties, but you
Yeah, like once finances and childcare and things like that, like yeah,
you acknowledged that it's something that you want to go for.
yeah, I've very much been in the thick of it with
Yeah.
kids, and like that's
Yeah,
hands
it's
down my
tough.
priority and
And
every
that's what this is about too. Like that's why, because you've acknowledged your struggle in
and it's
feeling and
real.
securing
Yeah,
a sense of fulfillment,
right.
patching holes in your cup, and then filling your cup to the point to where you can fill
I'm trying to
into our
overflow.
kids so we can overflow. Our kids are also the community. And
Right.
so it's an interesting balancing act. I'm excited to see how you really facilitate it, because you got this whole concept of chicken and the egg, to where the whole principle of having a mentor and then being a mentor for other people, you're kind of in this space to where you acknowledge that you need mentorship. And so you want to create this community to then mentor other people, but there's also this piece of needing the initial mentorship to then
Right.
have for yourself that you can then feed into other people. So it's almost
Yes.
like finding the resources, bringing in the people, bringing in the mentors that can then mentor you
Mhm.
and everybody else that you've built this community around. So the community
Right.
itself is built around
It's like
vulnerability
my needs
and
are
people
being met,
seeking.
and it's like I think other people have these same, oh, I know other people have these same needs. We've talked about it on my Instagram many times, of people in the same boat, and I'm going to be this funnel of information and wisdom from women
That's
who
great.
are, have beautiful motherhood journeys and experience and things that just we don't know, and kind of building this passion for homemaking that I desire and I imagined would come naturally, that didn't, but it's in there and I love it, and I just want to like light that fire in that ownership of the home in women and raising our kids and just letting that be our fulfillment. And so yeah, I'm definitely like hunting for mentorship in that space and just being a guide. And it's not coming out of my expertise by any means. It's literally I'm struggling, and I know that there are people who can touch on this better than I can, and I kind of want to bring that to the masses.
Sure. Okay. So we talked about giving yourself grace, but also acknowledging that you have a job to do.
Hmm.
And I firmly believe that if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So, how do you balance the whole concept of giving yourself grace with trying to get 1% better, not just as a mom, not just as a woman, not just as a wife, but 1% better every day? Do you subscribe to that?
I feel like I try to, absolutely. I think certainly can do better, and I feel like it's almost like I pick I have to choose a category of myself every day, it's like spiritually, it's probably the category I choose most, that I feel lacking and I want to get better in and I want to grow, because I know that that's like the key to everything. And so I can lean into that. And then other times it's the entrepreneurial side of me, or, I'm trying to learn more about business so I can help us, get to the place that we want to be, help me get to the place where I want to be and starting something. Um, and those would probably be the two main categories. And then as a mother, where I'm reading, different resources or listening to something that's along those lines. So yeah, I kind of just whatever area that day I'm feeling, oh gosh, I need to get better here. And it's like one of those three categories typically. But yeah, I'm trying to get 1% better somewhere every day. And it is hard to balance when everything is so multifaceted, but it is a goal
There's
nonetheless.
days where things just seem like they're falling apart. So that
Hmm.
1% better, I just dropped 10% today
Yeah,
in like two different of those
yeah. And it
categories. So
may
how
look
am I
like me
supposed
just
to?
listening to worship instead of anything else, because I'm like, Lord, I live today, and I think that, I mean, that's something. That's
Jesus,
got
take
to
the
be
wheel.
something.
Does that
Like,
count as worship?
right? Like, I mean, sometimes it's just like, you know
Give
what?
me this one more
Instead of just
chance.
like escaping, I just sat in this moment and like clung to the Lord, and that's growth for me. And Sometimes it's really intentional and sometimes it's not as much,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
try.
oh, that's good. I think a lot of people can relate to that because, you got some crazy psychos out there that like to beat up themselves, beat up their body, and do a whole bunch of stuff. And not everybody's
That's
about that
not your
life.
girl. That's not your
And
girl.
but it's still important to find ways to give yourself grace in the 1% growth, the 1%
Mm-hmm.
better every single day. There's so much grace in that because we want to be at the end goal. We forget about the journey and it's progress over perfection. I think you kind of struggle with
Yeah,
that
I
a little
am
bit.
the ultimate perfectionist, and not the cool perfectionist that's like, I'm just gonna keep like, the perfect, like my dad is like, it's like excellence or nothing, and I'm kind of like the critical perfectionist, and it's not
My
like,
least
it's
favorite
not the
kind.
cool kind, right? Your wife ended up being your least favorite type of perfectionist, but
Mm,
it's like, not it's the critical, and it's ugly sometimes, most of the time. Like, I can feel that. I can point out flaws more, better than anyone I know, and that's not something I'm proud of. I can just correct all day long, and I think I'm realizing now that, like, that's not, A, it's not cute, but B, it's not productive just sitting there. It's judgmental at the end of the day, because if it's me saying, oh, I could do that better, I could do that better, I would have done this, which is better. And it's like, who know? I'm not you. Like, I don't know. And I'm just realizing that now. Like, in the book, Respectable Sins, which
there it is.
is absolute, like, it's, sins that we tolerate kind of as Christians on a high horse, which unfortunately is me a lot of the times. And every single chapter is me, and it's terrible, but it's also good to realize, like, okay, I am not perfect, again, like I like to think I am. And I have so many sins, first of all, but also I make so many mistakes, and I cannot say that in any given situation I would just do the right thing, the best thing. And what I think is right is not always best. Perfectionist, it's not good.
Well,
Long story
it's
short.
more so the emphasis on progress,
Right.
and you have to give yourself the grace to experience the progress. Sometimes progress looks like taking 2 steps forward and then taking a 3-step diagonal backwards pivot.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily going back to where you were, but you are moving in the opposite direction so you can move a little bit horizontally so then you can take 6 steps in a positive.
What was Atomic Habits, where I remember you were telling me the story of the gym where the guy would go
Yeah, so in
every
Atomic
day?
Habits, it was this guy who was overweight and he was trying to get fit.
Right.
He was trying to achieve this goal of losing weight or becoming more fit. And so the first thing he did was set his alarm. And he spent a week, 2 weeks just hitting that alarm and just
Mm-hmm.
getting up. And the next phase was him going and sitting in the parking lot. He didn't even go in the gym for
Yeah.
weeks. And then it was him going in the gym, peeking around, and he would allocate himself 15 minutes to, like, all right, I'm going to go sit at this equipment. I'm going to hit one
Mm-hmm.
of those, and then I'm out of here. And then over time, and there were other techniques and things that James Clear talks about in the book Atomic Habits, with habit stacking, with positive reinforcing the good habits, and then negatively reinforcing the bad habits, and then building a whole lifestyle around casting the vote every day. If I want to be this, if I want to be a writer, if I pick up my journal and I write, I don't have to write a lot, but the fact that I did it, today I'm a writer. And then over time, the more I cast the vote, eventually this whole journal is going to be full. And then
Right.
over time, I'm going to have a bunch of journals that are going to be full. And then over 10 years, I'll have enough work for a couple memoirs. but it's just casting the vote every single day and not expecting yourself to be a award-winning writer. I'm going to start writing, or I'm going to start a podcast and it's going to be amazing. And then, well, I can't make it perfect because I don't have the lighting, or I don't have a mic, or I don't have a nice camera. So I'm going to wait. For me, it was as silly as I didn't know what my jingle was going to be.
Yeah.
It took me an extra probably 8 months to start because I would get on GarageBand and start playing around like, oh,
No,
I got
don't
like a
like
cool, I heard a cool couple things. I'm going to mix them together, but I couldn't get the rhythm right because I'm playing with my keyboard and trying to get it. And it was just trash. And because of that, I didn't start the podcast when in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because I just got a sample from the app.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, because that is all so wonderful. And I remember before I read the book,
Hmm.
Matthew had been talking to me about it,
I
and
read
he
this book
said
like
he
four
gave me that
times.
example, and I was like, "That's the dumbest thing I ever heard." Like, in what world am I gonna waste my time? Like, that's dumb.
And I
Like, that's
explained it
dumb.
probably as equally as
Yes,
passionate the
and I
first
was
time.
like,
And you're like, that's so stupid.
"Excuse me," and then that is like how that's how my brain is, and that's what I'm fighting against because I'm like,
Broke my
at
little
the
heart.
end of the day, that is so beautiful for somebody to be like, that's disciplined. That is somebody who's looking at themselves and unhappy with what they look like. And they're like, you know what? No, I'm going to do this for real. I'm not just going to go get a gym membership and show up, 3 days and then be done. I'm going to make this a habit and I'm going to commit to it. And I naturally I have such a hard time seeing that. And I'm the person that's sitting there like, oh, I can't wait until I can, have this beautiful house. It's like my house
Concierge
looks like a
trainer.
disaster. Like my house literally would be so messy. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Oh, I just really want a bigger house. It's like, why? So it can be a pigsty and we can just, everything is a mess. It's like, no, we have to be stewards of the now, where we are, and that is so difficult for me. And that's kind of what I'm working on now, just not being satisfied where you are and not just sitting in it, changing it and being proactive and being okay with that 1% better instead of just like, well, when somehow I win the lottery or when this world drastically changes, then I'll suddenly, like, no, I won't suddenly do anything because, money's not going to change my habits. It's me. Any situation that happens, it's me going into it. And so yeah, the 1% is so significant, and it's just for a person that wants the drastic change, who wants the, perfection over progress almost every time is my goal. That that is so hard, but really when you think about it, it's such a beautiful thing to just choose progress, to choose being better no matter what it looks like, no matter how dumb you look going for 5 minutes to the gym, or like how dumb you feel, because you don't look dumb if you're
Because at the
going
end of the
there
day,
like
nobody's
you're better than me
actually.
because did I do my Peloton that's sitting in my room that I begged for? Like most days, no, I've been way better. But I was like, I will ride that thing every day. And do I? No, it's in my bedroom. It is literally the first thing I see
Right next to the bed.
when I wake up. Upon waking, it's the Peloton. And I'm like, ooh, let me just step aside and go to the bathroom. Like, I don't do it every day. And so, yeah, the person who's driving to the gym, setting their alarm, waking up, going there, getting out of their car, like, you already won the day. And so, yeah, progress matters.
And for anybody who is thinking about like how they look or how they might be judged, I think it's important to remember that literally nobody is thinking about you, period. David Goggins talks about how nobody who is ahead of you is talking trash about you. Nobody that's ahead of you is looking back and judging you for putting forth effort. It just doesn't exist. The only people that are going to talk trash about you are, think about this, a crabs in a barrel, right? If you got a bunch of crabs in a pot and that pot is on the stove and you turn the heat up and one crab manages to get on top of everybody and make its way out, those other crabs, because it's their nature, will grab and pull him back in, because it's like, if we're suffering, we're going to suffer here together. Nobody out the pot is worried about you coming out the pot too. It's usually people who are below you, that are behind you, that are jealous, or they feel terrible about themselves. They haven't gotten to the space of having a sense of passion or fulfillment, so they feel the need to look upon you and judge you. So most people aren't, they don't even think about you. So if you're worried about what people perceive you as, they're not, first. Second, the very few that are, that might think negatively of you, they're not worth it at all. We're the accumulation of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So if you're trying to change your situation, one thing that you could do that can help you drastically is change your environment. And I was talking to a guy earlier, and he was talking about, we were talking about the concept of changing our environment, and he broke it down in such a really cool way. It's like, if I think about my Instagram or my YouTube, and if the people that I watch, if I realize like, man, this is just entertainment, they're not filling, or they're not really feeding into me, and I want to change it, what do? I unfollow people, and then I follow people that do feed into me. And then what happens? The algorithm changes. And
Hmm.
so the overall algorithm and what gets fed to me, the whole perspective from the worldview of that one app gets completely different, because that information was out there the whole time, but the algorithm was only giving me what it thought I wanted.
That's really good.
And
It's like
that's how
changing
our
your
minds,
worldview
that's how
almost.
our
Yeah.
minds work. That's how our worldview and our perspective is. We will only see what we're programmed to see, what we want to see. So if we can make those small changes and do those small things, it can change everything. And so I just want to encourage you with that, but also anybody listening, because I've just been able to like naturally be around people who are ahead of me. I mean, my whole life, I've just been able to like just touch greatness, and
Mm-hmm.
never, haven't fulfilled it yet, but honestly, I feel like I am in what we're building with our family, with our kids. I think we have something so special, that, and I think it's so cool that you're intentional about building out this community, and that you're intentional about being vulnerable and talking about, all your struggles on a platform like this, because people don't do this, and it might come across as like self-deprecating, but I mean, this is like real of the real, and there's so much that people can gain from this. And you talked about the physical, you talked about the, like the sense of like self-assurance and that level.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to turn this around into like a positive thing, because there's something that you've been doing recently that I'm actually really, really proud of you for. And you've been doing it for a long time, and you've experienced your own physical transformation. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's really been based on what you eat,
Yeah.
what your diet. And yes, you've been doing a pretty good job with like the physical work, and you've been doing better and being more consistent, but you cannot outwork a bad diet. How has the food that you've eaten, how has your perspective on food changed since we lost our daughter Eden in 2019? And then how has just the discipline that you've had around food with our family, how has
Mm-hmm.
that impacted like you and your body, and like how has all of that kind of evolved over time?
So, thank you, by the way. In 2019, after losing Eden, my sister gifted me with her nutritionist, who's amazing, this full panel, like GI, everything, like deep dive, just to make sure everything was okay. And because we didn't get an explanation as to why we lost our daughter, it was just like it happened. And so we wanted to make sure everything was okay with my body, and it was a safe, healthy environment for babies to come. And I learned I was fine. There were things that I needed to change, and one of those was that it would be better for at least a period of time to be paleo. So for in that beginning phase, I was like fully paleo, so completely grain free, no refined sugars, There was a period of time where I had no sugar at all, just as a reset. In that time, I just felt so much better. And I grew up as the kid who would like get sick all the time, like just in random places, just vomiting and whatever, just not great, you know? And I was just always like, oh, I just have a sensitive stomach. My gut health just wasn't good. And so I've restored that. And then it's just shifted my focus on food so much. I've always loved food. In the past, I couldn't fathom giving up random things because I'm like, no, I love pizza. Like, I love pizza. People can say, like, he doesn't care about food. Like, he just
I
doesn't.
like
He's
food.
not this food. Yeah, but he's not like a foodie. Okay, I am like, I
I'm not a foodie.
love food. I look forward to meals very specifically. And so I just had such a hard time picturing like what is my life without sugar, flour, dairy, all of those things. And it's been a huge blessing because in this drastic period of like I felt like I had to because of what happened. It felt so drastic and so pressing for me to get right. It just shifted my focus and I mean I've lost like I had two babies since then, but since my last baby I've lost maybe 30 pounds, and that's like, and I wasn't like huge. It was just like, oh, it was just inflammation and certainly extra weight. But just even my face looks different and everything feels so much better. And now I can't even imagine going back. Like there are things, you know, if we ever go to Italy again, I want my stomach to be able to handle the pizza and all those things. But it's more about just all over health. And I had never had that perspective before of paying attention to ingredients. My body is a temple and I am intentional about what goes in here. I'm intentional. I feel responsible for my kids and what goes in their bodies, and my husband, what goes in his, because I know too much. That I mean, there's so much responsibility that comes with the information like that, where I know what's detrimental to my body and I can't just go on ignoring that because that's just, I mean, foolish for me personally. Like, I know I literally did a deep dive and it was very expensive. And I'm not just going to take that information and, well, this won't hurt. Like, I won't compromise in that area. So it's been a huge blessing health wise, just everything wise. Just your gut is your, it's what they call your second brain. So needed to be in tip top shape here because after many pregnancies, the first brain, you know, on any given day, you get that mom brain and it's a real deal. So we got to have the backup at least operating at its highest capacity. So yeah, that's been a big blessing. Did that answer your question?
No, it was good. I think just your level of confidence in yourself and how you can put yourself out there has just grown so much, and I think that's a part of it. Your physical and being able to lose that weight has been huge, but also feeding into your first brain and
Mm-hmm.
utilizing the resources and using the tools that you've received. And you said it really good, and I think a lot of people will take in knowledge and they'll take in information, but they don't like it because it makes them uncomfortable and they'll ignore it. And so for you to say, I couldn't, it was, hey, I spent all that money on it to
Yeah.
get these answers. I, I can't, I got to justify it. And that's kind of where it started, but you've come such a long way since then and how you've grown. So I guess I'd like to close it out with this, because just to bring it back to Someday Daughter, and we've talked so much around the why it's
Mm-hmm.
important and how you fit into it, and it's going to grow and it's going to expand. And again, we talked about progress over perfection, but I really want to hit this one home. We drastically overestimate what we can do in a year, but we drastically underestimate what we can do in 10 years. And we just always expect, like, okay, I'm going to start this journey and then immediately it's going to be awesome. And then when it's not, we give up. But we forget that the compound effect, if we just take those small steps every single day and then we fast forward 10 years, we allow that to extrapolate and hockey stick upwards, the amount of lives that we can change, the amount of cups that we can fill, and the blessings that we can have through the work that God has put us on here to do is just enormous. So I say all that, just I want to preface my next question with all of that context just to say, at this point now, if somebody were to come and talk to you today, where do you think you can provide the most value to a person today?
In terms of a category or like a specific topic?
You've got people that already on your Instagram. I'm so impressed with just the ability that you have to just put out a story and then have people respond. It's crazy. Like, you'll ask a question and you'll get a lot of responses, and people engage with you.
Yeah.
And there's people that have exponentially more followers than you do out there, but I don't I don't know if the quality of engagement
Yeah.
is the same. And I think that's really special, and I think that's a superpower that you have that you can use and grow off of. So it doesn't really matter the category, but
Yeah.
I guess you can pull in where you've experienced people engage with you, but maybe people are sleeping on something that they don't really, what could they be utilizing you for? What tools, what superpowers do you have that?
I think I think perspective in general, like if I'm going to give, I think that's something that I think I've always loved writing, and I've always kind of been reflective, and I think the experience with losing Eden just provided this perspective that on one hand, I think you just realize how important and significant our lives are, but also how not unique our hardships are, I guess. And I think
Mm,
when I can get so wrapped up in my day to day struggles, and then you just put it out there and you see so many people are like, yeah, oh my gosh, same. Oh my gosh, same. Oh my God. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we're all having a hard time then. Like,
it's
we're
not just
all
you.
doing this. And it's like, I
People have
lost
babies in fields all the time.
yeah. I I after losing Eden, the amount of people who were like, me too, or me too, and I had a miscarriage, and you're just like, oh my gosh, life is really hard, and we need each other. And I think reminding people of that, being an influencer to any degree, your life looks a certain way. I mean, I'm purposely not capturing my child's tantrums, although I am tempted to sometimes, but for their sake, I won't do that. But like, you I want to be as real as possible, but there's no way to vlog 24 hours. Nobody would care. You're getting a highlight reel, no
No
matter
matter what.
what. Even if I'm sharing something hard, it's usually with a perspective that's like softening it a bit. And so my life looks a certain way, but then I can talk about it's really hard not having our own home, as beautiful as it is, and as grateful as I am for my in laws and his parents for letting us live here. I'm like, I'm having a hard time. Like, we do not have the money to buy a home right now. And that's a bummer. Like, that's hard. Or, like, but it's not that hard. Like, it's not that bad, you know? And I don't know if I'm answering this correctly, but I think that's just something that people can relate on. Like, oh, it's kind of like when your child's like having a tantrum or something, and then it's like you say something and they're like, oh, all right, well, that's done. Like, I get it. We can relate here. Like, I don't need to just be like spiraling off with a perspective shift. We're all in this together, and it's all hard, and it's all beautiful, and it's all overwhelming, and it's all precious, all of that. Very long answer, but to boil it down, I just say perspective. I don't know if that answered
I was going for more of like paleo baking
it.
recipes, but that works
Really?
too.
Oh, well, I do. You know what? That I do got some killer
You
recipes.
do. I
I
wanted that
am.
plug.
I am a. I do love. Again, I love food,
The
and I
foodie aspect
don't.
hasn't changed. You
I don't
still,
compromise. Okay, so if I You know the people who are like the super granola and it's like this is a delicious tofu. Like, no, I don't want that. I'm sorry. It's not good. You must have been removed from meat for too long to think that this is a replacement for a burger. It's not. That's not me. I love food, and if I'm going to eat something, it is going to be delicious. What is it? Anton Ego on Ratatouille. I don't like food. I love it. Okay. Like, that's just a fact. And so I am a great resource for that. And I do love baking. And I do hope to one day continue baking and have healthy, clean, paleo, gluten free, dairy free, not the kind that is just overcompensating with sugar, but like beautiful whole food desserts for sale. And that will be a thing in the future. I don't know when, I don't know how soon, tomorrow, 3 years, don't know. But that's a passion of mine too, because it's hard out here. I'm not always trying to whip out the mixer and make myself cookies. Okay. Like, I want to be able to buy some. So, anywho, sir.
No, that was good. Hey, I think we did it. I think we did
Yeah.
it. This was cool.
Sunset sesh.
Sunset sesh. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what day. This could be the Sunday confessions.
Sunday confession.
Sunday confessions.
No, we should do sunset confessions.
Sunset.
A sunset
confession.
session. I like that.
Sunset session.
The kids are in bed.
We about
You know,
to
what
get
is
it
it?
on.
The
Like, get
what
it
is
on. And we're about to turn on
it.
this
Podcast.
All right, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it this far. I appreciate you. And if you got any value from this episode, please share it with somebody, like it, give us a review. As always, stay humble, stay hungry,
Stay streetwise.
stay streetwise. Peace.
I always look like I could eat. I need to like
You look like you could eat me.
Yeah, because I'm always up here and you're like in the back. Whole food desserts for sale.